right, folks, we're back with another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. I am your host, Tim Korkleski, and tonight is just going to be a banter between Nick and I about some different topics we wanted to discuss. No guest tonight because of the fact that I will be moving very, very soon, and I am tired and ragged, and I look like a pair of old man balls in the face. I have a face for radio that nobody wants to see right now. So, Nick, how you doing tonight, man?
I get to talk tonight, and I'm going to be laughing too hard. I think he's being too generous when he says a pair of old man balls.
Oh, it just by a pair, I mean like elephant old man balls. So just to give you guys a heads up as to what's been going on, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but I just today closed on my house. I know, congratulations to me, yay! I got all that. But the process down here in Georgia, where my wife and I have been looking to buy, has been absolutely fucking painful. And, you know, a lot of people have been giving us this impression that house buying is like you see on HGTV and all this other bullshit. Fuck those guys. This was probably one of the most stressful things I've ever done. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say don't go out and buy a house. Just be prepared that this is a process. And I've been waking up constantly every morning and going into work at about 5 o'clock to work on shit or deliver boxes before I start my day job, just turn around and come back home and start the whole process over again. So that's where I'm standing.
Some of that I have to blame on your realtor. Kept offering you my realtor. He was awesome. He made the process as smooth as possible.
You know, honestly, my realtor, when I first started this, she was a little leery. As far as like how she was handling things. But after we got into the process, like my realtor did a really damn good job at taking care of us. It's just a lot of it is because we ended up doing a 28-day rush close because right now it's a seller's market down here. And I mean, there's people that are like paying over, like way over asking costs for houses. So it's stupid. So if you want to find anything, be prepared that you got to go in there like a bunch of guerrilla warfare savages and just sweep it out from underneath somebody else. Hold their kids hostages if you have to. I don't know what you got to do. You know, just get the house.
I have. I've watched houses in my neighborhood go up and then be gone a couple weeks later.
Yeah, so it's been a process. But enough about that shit. This is a gaming podcast. Let's talk about some gaming stuff. So Nick and I have a couple of topics we want to cover tonight. There's one big one because it's pertaining to some events that we have coming up here in the near future that could also lead to more stuff that would be more interactive for the community on an actual face-to-face basis for Skirmish Supremacy. But, let's start off first by kind of talking about what we got going on our hobby desks. So, Nick, since you actually have a hobby desk at the moment, I'm going to let you start with this one.
I've got horses upon horses upon horses. Lots of them.
Is that some pony fetish or something that I don't know about? Or
well, you know what? We got talking about bronies last week, and I couldn't help myself. I had to look, and there's probably some South Park episode that has something on this. You know, it's the brony touch or something, but not really. Though I may have to paint up a unit as My Little Ponies, just for the hell of it. No, it's Kings of the War, and it's Bretonnians. Well, in Kings of War, it's Brotherhood.
Yes, it is the Brotherhood, which are still badasses and are not to be taken lightly.
They got Pegasus Knights, so I'm happy with them.
Yeah, flying cavalry are scary, scary things. So yeah, just to give everybody a heads up, Nick and I have actually been diving in pretty heavily in Kings of War lately. We've been really working with the local community here in the Atlanta area in order to get stuff up and running. There's actually a weekend down at Gigabytes Cafe called the Clash of Steel. Right now, I think we've got about 16 people signed up, which is not bad for something that was just set up kind of a month and a half ago, 2 months ago on the fly. And then, obviously, for more of like, I guess you want to call it more of a Southeast majors tournament, there's the ATC, the American Team Championships, that will be based out of, it's hosted by Dice Head Games, but it's right around the Chattanooga area in Tennessee that I'll be attending. I know, Nick, you said you're still up in the air for that one, right?
Yeah, right now I'm up in the air because that's like the weekend after my kids come back from visiting their grandparents in New York, and we don't know what's going on yet. So,
Right. Well, in that case, kids come first, man. I'm never going to sit there and say, hey, you need to go to this convention instead.
that and I mean, my partner got stolen apparently.
Yeah. So we're not going to discuss the overall depth of how that happened on the podcast because we don't want to like throw anybody under the bus or anything of that nature, Seth. But let's just say that after playing a couple of games, somebody decided that I was going to be their partner for ATC, so they didn't get matched up with somebody that would be less of a partner for them. So I was basically told after a couple of games and some discussions over what was going to be happening for ATC that I now have a hotel room and a badge. So, yeah.
I mean, then again, you got a hotel room and a badge.
Which is fine.
If all you have to do is put out being a partner on games, it's not such a terrible option.
Yeah, exactly. So, and just give you a heads up, Nick, I am actually working very hard to find you another partner. So if you are able to go, I'm looking for somebody for you in order to fill in that space. I'm trying to recruit a couple of the Warhammer Fantasy players back into Kings of War. We got some that are actually really decent at the game. Just for some reason, they decided that the game was dead in the area, which it's clearly not.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those ones that's been going in kind of waves. There was a bunch of 9th Age hype, and especially now that they've released their stable rule set. I know that David over there at Gigabytes is starting to stir that up some. So, you have kind of the fantasy crowd going back into that.
Yeah, that is very true. The great thing with the whole 9th Age and Kings of War thing is the fact that those models can be used for both games, no problem. So you're almost getting two armies to the price of one. And in a way, it's very effective that way because, if you have a 9th Age army of, I don't know what they call them. I think they call them like the Fallen or something along those lines. Then they translate over to the Varangur, which are basically a bunch of evil barbarian dudes for Kings of War. So you buy one army, you can play two different game systems, go to twice the amount of tournaments, twice the amount of events, and you're good.
I think, though, people are more likely to buy multiple armies and go to the same tournaments, only because it's one of those things you get used to a game system.
Right, and
not
those
everyone's
people
like us
right.
that I was going to say, not everyone's like us and it's just like, ooh, shiny. Yes, I'll play this.
Yeah, I know. We both have problems with that. Nick more so. For anybody listening, Nick is terrible with the shiny thing.
You know what? I've been in Gigabytes a couple times in the last couple weeks, and I've bought some paint and a drink. Oh, and one mini. And that was an Azrael for Infinity that I'm going to use as a blackjack for my US Ariadna, because they haven't put the model out yet.
Gotcha. So, let me ask you this. Was there a glossy wrapper on the paint?
No. It was just some Game Air paint. Looked like this.
Was there reflection coming off of your drink that you bought?
No, it was covered in condensation.
Yeah. I see where you're trying to avoid, and it's not going to happen. You still bought some shiny shit while you were there. So right now you've got some Brotherhood, as we're going to call them, on your desk. So what's your process of getting them done right now? Because I know that, if I remember, you picked up a shit ton of knights.
I have just out of straight knights, I have 75 straight knights, and then a bunch of special characters and like 10 Grail knights, and then another 8 or so yeomen, and then a bunch of infantry, and I think 7 or 8 Pegasus knights, and then a guy on a hippogriff. Yeah.
So you're
And
set.
most of those 75 knights aren't painted.
Right. I remember seeing the whole pile of gray. And if anybody's been following us on Facebook and Instagram, where Nick has been posting and I have been failing to do so, I have an excuse. So, yeah, he's got quite a bit of stuff. My Kings of War stuff is all official Mantic Ogres. That is the first army that I started out with, and that's the one that I'm trying to get finished up first before I move on to my elves. And then in July, for anybody that plays Kings of War has been interested, and if they're familiar with GW, GW did away with their Tomb Kings army a while back, and so Ronnie and the guys over at Mantic decided, hey, you know what? We're going to launch our Empire of Dust, which are basically, I guess if you want to call them, their Egyptian skeleton army. I mean, they play vastly different. They do have a quite a different look. They're not an exact copy of the Tomb Kings, but you're talking like Egyptian skeleton warriors, which is you've seen for ages in any type of fantasy setting. Hell, even movies like The Mummy. So I mean, you're kind of getting the same thing. And they put that out there. That'll be hopping out in July, and that'll probably be my third army for Kings of War, because I have a good, I have a neutral, and I have an evil at that point. So, but yeah, as far as everything goes for ATC and for GigaCon, which is our Kings of War GT that we're going to be holding down in Atlanta on August 27th and 28th, it will be a fully painted ogre army. So as soon as I get moved into the new house, get the desk set up, I promise I will start posting pictures. I am not just some slack ass that sits back and talks about the hobby. I actually do this shit on a weekly basis. I've just been really bad about posting it.
I don't believe him.
You fuck off. How about that?
It's been about 6 months now.
Anybody who's played against me knows that's not the case. But, and then on top of that, I will be transitioning between Kings of War, getting my ogres painted. So before I say just painting Kings of War, getting my ogres painted and getting at least the 2 starter sets that I have, the Dark Legion and Mishima, for Warzone Resurrection.
Yeah, I've got to work on my Bauhaus more.
You do. I at least got all my stuff assembled. I don't know what your excuse is over there.
And where did you get those assembled?
That's not the point.
I think you were getting paid to do that.
Yes, I was. So, I mean, again, kind of the advantages sometimes of working in the industry is the fact that I get to build stuff at my desk, because I'll request information and then it's kind of like, no, I must sit back and wait. And it's not that I can't multitask. It's just one of those things that where the moment I get that answer, I need to immediately input it into different documents. And so I'll sit back and I'll be like, okay, I've got 30 seconds waiting on this answer. I'll put together this model. And, I've got a minute waiting on this answer. I'll put together this model. And lo and behold, I've got an entire Dark Legion and an entire Mishima army built at my desk at work.
Actually, I didn't realize you had your Mishima already built, too.
Oh, yeah, I took care of that, too. I just didn't post pictures of it to make you jealous.
Yeah, no.
And Nick can attest, I actually have a metric shit ton of everything for that game. I have at least one of everything that they have released for Mishima, and I think I'm only missing the Nazca Razides and the Nephirite for Dark Legion. I have everything else they've put out. So if you guys haven't seen the sculpts, I know some people have kind of crapped on Protoss a little bit because of the way their Kickstarters held up. However, I'm an old school Warzone guy, so the moment that they came out with the new Warzone and they showed the sculpts, I was like, okay, I'm in.
I've liked it so far. I've got just one guy it's the same guy, and off of two different boxes of the Hussars, that his arm or his gun arm or whatever, they don't quite fit. And I haven't sat there and ran the gun underwater and tried to squeeze it around and try and make it fit. But, he just doesn't want to go together quite right. Other than that, pretty much everything's gone together like a dream.
Yeah, I only had a couple minor problems with any of the builds that I was doing on mine. I think I actually mentioned it in one of our earlier banters that I was putting together the behemoth, and I had to carve away a little bit of its armor where his arm sat, because the behemoth has got 4 arms and the 2 lower ones are holding onto his big cannon. Um, so I had to carve away a little bit at the armor in order to get his forearm to fit in there properly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, unless you're sitting there and you're staring at it from 3 inches away, you would never notice that I had to shave down the armor in order to get his arm to fit. So, I mean, it's like any other model. Sometimes there's just minor fitting things you have to do. But past that, I haven't really had any problems. The Mercurian Maculators, my giant space gorillas with grenade launchers, went together fantastically.
Nice. I put together Juggernauts. I put together Rangers. Trying to put together a bunch of it. I only have a few things left to put. Hey,
you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You just froze. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, that was weird. Where did it end?
It was. You were just talking that you had a few to put together, so we'll have to edit this. That's all right.
Not a problem. It's the internet. It happens.
No shit. So anyway, you have a couple more to put together, and then you're pretty much ready for basing, prime, and painting.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of them together, and I think I've got a box of Hussars still left to put together. An extra box. And I've got my bike guys to put together, but I think the torsos and all that are lost on my desk right now. Because I've got the bikes, but I don't have their tops for some reason. So I've been looking for those for a couple days now, going, where the hell did they go?
That'll teach you one project at a time, damn it. And then, of course, on top of that, too, I do have my Edo to paint up for Counterblast, because brain people.
Edo. I've got almost all mine painted up. I've got to paint the brains on a couple of them and finish a couple of guns, and they'll be done.
Nice.
And I've been kind of dying to actually break it out to play a game, but just time is a bastard.
Yeah, it is. I know exactly what that's like. I'm hoping that after I get moved in this next week, that I'll have more of it to do the shit I need to get done. Which, I guess, speaking of getting shit done, I guess this kind of rolls into our next topic, which is, I know you and I have been kicking around the idea of like starting up like something a little bit more kind of, I guess if you want to call it convention-y. But we've been talking quite a bit the last few days, especially with ATC coming up and the GigaCon event, about like what it takes to get a con up and rolling and like what people want to see. And when I say convention, keep in mind, people, I'm not saying that you're going to sit there and like year one rival Gen Con. Like nobody's ever going to say that. But what it comes time to, what it's going to take in order to, have that event where you're going to have 20, 30 people for like a 2-day period at a time, maybe, an extended 3-day period, and what it takes in order to get something like that rolling. So, Nick, I know that you were kind of mentioning a couple of different things yesterday about like scheduling time and things of that nature. And I know one of the things that you kind of brought up is the fact that like pay attention to the other cons that are going on in the area.
Yeah, I mean, so this area has got a lot of different cons, grand tournaments, stuff like that, but not even just that. For some of what we were talking about, even some of the bigger events. I know that you and I were talking, and LVO's small, but it's not. The Las Vegas Open, LVO. There's Adepticon, because you had said March, and I was like, well, aren't there these things going in there? And you did point out a good thing. If we totally tried to avoid all of those, we'd have like November and December, and that's about it. And there's a reason why there's nothing in November and December time frame.
Yeah, it's called the 5 billion metric tons of white bullshit that plagues the earth.
But it's so fluffy.
Yeah, it also slows down traffic, it stops planes, and it just makes life as in general fucking miserable. And I'm saying
Uh,
that from somebody who comes from Wisconsin, so
it totally sucks. I was in Dallas, not this past February, but the February before, when it was going through snowpocalypse. And yeah, they were telling us my kid's birthday party was the next day. We had already been delayed a day, and my kid's party was the next day. And they're like, "Yeah, we're canceling your flight." We were on the plane. They were de-icing the plane, and we were getting ready to take off. And we'd been there for hours, like all day, coming from another airport that we had been delayed at. And just before we take off, they go, "We have to turn around." When we'd been we'd been on the plane for a few hours at least, and the pilot's like, "We're really sorry." My co-pilot, who's been flying all day nonstop, has hit his hours. He's like, "I cannot legally take off with him as my co-pilot because he is now because by the time we land, he would have exceeded his flight hours." And, he's like the, FAA or whatever is grounding us. So we had to turn around and go back. We were like the next one to take off. So, yeah, no, snow can definitely suck it.
yes. So that's one of the big things we kind of talked about is, yes, there's major events that go on throughout the year. And a lot of them, we all have general interest in attending, such as Adepticon. LVO is another one that was brought up. Nova Open up in the Northeast. TempleCon also up in the Northeast. Gen Con. Origins Game Fair, which is more board games, but at the same time, they still have miniatures there. So there's a lot of different majors, if you want to call them, throughout the year as far as conventions go that people attend, or like major tournaments. But as much as you always hear about these places having like 1,000 people, 2,000 people, keep in mind, it's only a handful from the area unless that is being held in that area. So even if, say, you are setting something up in your area, let's say you're in the Southeast like we are, and you want to set something up in February, which is normally when the Las Vegas Open is, and everybody's like, oh, don't do it during the Las Vegas Open. Coming from Georgia, flying to Vegas for wargaming, you're maybe, if you have a decent sized club, you're maybe going to have 6 guys that do it. Now, when I say 6 guys, I mean from one big store, and let's just call it 10 total. So 6 from one big store and like 4 others from the surrounding game store area. And, that's really going to be everybody that goes to these bigger events. Now, as far as the rest of the player base, what do they have? And that's where you come in. Trying to make an event that's going to cater to those guys that can't go to Vegas or can't go to Chicago or, can't head up to, I forget where Nova's Open at, and I feel like an asshole for saying it, but can't go to Nova Open. So things of that nature where it's like, okay, you're not settling for second place. You're giving an alternative. So, that's definitely one of the bigger things. Now, the other thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to harken back to my days with Cool Mini or Not and even volunteering for other companies in the past, plan your shit well in advance. What I mean by that is that if you were expecting any more than 30, let's even call it 40 people, you need to give it at least 1 month per 10 players. If you want to have a turnout at any type of a tournament or event, 1 month per 10 players that you want to see attending. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but doing it that way, even if you only get 50 people, okay, so 50 people 5 months out, that gives you time to get your table space together. If you need to rent a hall, if you need to block out hotel rooms, doing all the legwork it takes to get this stuff going, because it is hard. So taking the time to plan all that out and make sure that you are going to be prepared, you need to build in that time, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to make money off of this shit ever. Okay. So unless you become the next Gen Con, it's not going to happen. So keep in mind that when you do this, you might come out of pocket, or you're going to break completely even. So if you're going to take the time to plan this stuff out and you want to do it right, make sure you plan out enough in advance to where you are not stressing about it. Because I've seen that numerous times, especially when it comes time to events. Hell, I've had it a couple times at different conventions we went to when I was with Simon, where it's like, okay, shit, we don't have certain events that are on the register. We've had them planned out for a long time, but the convention themselves screwed up and didn't put it on there, and now we're scrambling to let people know through various channels that this shit's going on. Where if it was on there in the first place, we know we would have sold out. So it's kind of the same thing. If you want to sell out your event, make sure people know about it in advance. Make sure they know the details. Make sure they know if you're going to have sponsors and all the other fancy shit that goes along with it.
Definitely.
That's all you got? Definitely?
Definitely. I haven't done any of this. I've been listening to you for days and going, hey, let's make sure we don't fuck it up.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we've also talked about as well, and this isn't so if we have game stores that are listening, keep in mind, this is not knocking you in any stretch of the imagination. When you start having events that start getting too big for your store, they need to move elsewhere. So one of the things that we've been kind of looking at is the fact that, I'm going to use, for example, our GigaCon event that's coming up here at the end of August, right? We've got right now scheduled, I think there's 26 that are signed up. That number might be wrong, but I think right now it's 26 that are signed up the last time I checked. And that's not going off of, the people who click the going box on Facebook because, fuck all that. But we have a slot maximum of 40 people. We might be able to squeeze it up to about 44. Keep in mind, that is going to be 20 to 22 6-foot by 4-foot tables in a gaming store. Okay? When we do that for these 40 to 42 people, because again, you always want to plan for the biggest, we're going to shut down that entire store for the day. Nobody else will be able to play games in there. So the moment that starts happening, like especially when you're looking at it on a game store level, that can start causing problems. Because the game store is thriving off of people coming to the store and buying things left and right. If you're basically taking up all of the prime real estate in a game store for 42 people that came in for a tournament, and sure, if you do it right, they pay for the tournament, the store gets, the proceeds from that, and at which point they dole out prize support. So all that money the game store still gets, it's still not going to equate to the same, especially over volume of what's going to happen when you get especially bigger games like that. Now, if you're playing stuff like, Guild Ball or X-Wing, you can squeeze a hell of a lot more into that space. And it's because the table sizes are smaller. But the moment you start dealing with your bigger games, good luck. At that point, the moment you start going over what would be the comfortable capacity for a game store, start looking elsewhere. Now, does that mean cut the game store out of it completely? Absolutely not. If anything, find a way to help have them sponsor your event. Set them up a little area off to the side where they can sell the stuff that's pertaining to the events that you're running at whatever new location you find. Find the happy medium with those guys because, again, they support you on the weekly basis, especially if you're doing something like this and I don't want to say screw up, but let's just say it's a happy mistake that you get so many people the game store can't handle it after a while. Don't cut them out. Just make sure that, they're still taken care of, but you also have to make sure everybody else is comfortable. So, that's also something to look into is where are you going to hold your event? If it's a tournament at a game store, you're talking like 16 to 24 people and the game store can handle it, definitely hold it at the game store. The moment you start getting way, way up there, and especially if you're talking about making it more of like an event, not just a tournament, but an event. So it's multiple games going on. You're not going to be able to hold that in a game store. You have to move it elsewhere. So one of the big things to also throw in there too is doing the research of surrounding areas. If you're talking about people flying in or driving in long distances, you don't want them driving long distances to find wherever you're holding the event. So especially if you're looking at more of a smaller con where you're talking like, let's say 50 to 75 people, look for a hotel with a conference room, a hotel with reasonable rates, try to set up, a block rate for the rooms, work with the hotel, say, hey, we're going to have like guaranteed 50 to 60 rooms blocked off. They will work with you as long as there's not any other major events going on in the area. But that's the other thing that you need to talk to them about. Because, again, you're trying to look after the people that are coming to your event.
Look after the people coming to your event. Look after the venue that you're having it at, because if you successfully have it there, you probably are going to want to have it there, again.
Yes, very much so. If you do something right, you will always have those people that come up to you right away and say, hey, man, I'm going to be here again next year. Or do you have a date set up for next year? If you even hear that from one or two people off your first shot, then you've got to win. So take it for what it's worth. The other thing that is, too, is, I know I'm going very basics on some of this stuff, but, talk to the guys after the event or during the event. See if there's anything that they would have done differently. See if there's anything they'd like to see differently. The other thing of it is, too, I've brought this up a couple of times, is definitely swag bags and prize support. If you're going to have an event where people are spending, let's even say they're staying at a buddy's house in the area, right? And they're still driving 4 or 5 hours, spending, let's call it round trip, $75 to $100 in gas overall, if they started with a full tank, plus food. You're asking them to spend $200 in a weekend to where they're maybe going to walk away with, nothing. A handshake and a slap on the back and a good job. Try to get prize support from different companies. Either ask your local retailers, if you know guys that are local in the area that make different wares or things like that, do something to have extra stuff to give away. You have to build that in. Because if you don't, why are people going to come to your event?
Yeah, definitely. Hell, NashCon, they were talking about the prize bag there, and I damn near wanted to sign up, and I was like, I even know I can't go, but I want to sign up, and I know some of the guys go, and I'll just be like, just pick up my bag and bring it back.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob and the guys at NashCon did a fantastic job of setting up their prize support for their last event that they just held, and they did really, really well too. I want to say, what did they end up with? 32 people was the overall total.
I thought they were pretty much at max. I mean, they had a 40-person max, and they only had like 2 bags, and that had been because a couple of people had to cancel out.
Yeah, well, they drank too much the night before.
Well,
so
no.
the player base on Saturday was far bigger than the player base on Sunday.
That's not surprising. Well, not entirely surprising.
Yeah. So, little fun announcement for. I haven't announced it yet on the actual Facebook group and everything else that's coming up for the GigaCon event in Atlanta. However, for any local listeners, Reformation Brewery will be sponsoring the event.
Oh, awesome.
There will be hats and T-shirts and hoodies and stickers and all that stuff. And, of course, because they're a brewery, beer. Now, the other thing they also offered to do, I'm still working out the details on this, but since it's going to be a 2-day event, we're going to run it like your typical like Warhammer Fantasy style grand tournament where you played day 1 and on day 2 was kind of the wrap-up games and closing ceremonies. That way people aren't sitting at the tables from like 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. at night. They finish up at like 5 and go enjoy dinner and see the local area. They're talking about shutting down the typical tour time and setting up a reserved block for us. So I'm still working out the details on that. But right now I just need to start talking with the different guys that are coming and find out who would make the trek. So from Marietta to Woodstock, it's about a 20-minute drive. However, if we can get people carpooling, I know for a fact a lot of people would appreciate going to a microbrew and getting a private tour and private tastings and, just kind of having a brewery to themselves.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Of course, my house is, just down the road, so it's
Right.
not as bad a thing, but we might have to work out a bus or something.
Yeah, I'm working on all those details now, so that's why I was saying it's in the works. But I just talked with the owner last night about it, and he's all for it. He just needs basically a head count and to find out how many people would be willing to do it. And once that happens, we're going to get everybody set.
All right, GigaCon listeners, come on, give us shout-outs. I want a brewery to myself. Damn it.
Yeah, who else? Who else? That's going to be attending GigaCon wants an entire brewery to themselves for a night.
I can already hear Seth yelling, "Me, me, me, me."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now I think they have what is it, a dozen different beers on the menu.
I don't know. I've been
Plus they
slowly
fill
working my
growlers.
way through them.
Yeah, plus they fill growlers. So if you got your own growlers, if you finish it off at GigaCon during the day, just take it back to Reformation, get it filled at night. You'd be all right.
Awesome. So that's one sponsor. Who else do we have sponsoring, Tim?
Oh God. Let's see here. Secret Weapon. Secret Weapon Miniatures. Dustin McCoy's helped us out quite a bit. So a big shout out to him. A big thank you to him. We got Custom Meeple. I'm drawing a blank here. Nick, help me out a little bit. I've had so much stuff go through my brain today.
So Custom Meeple, we don't know exactly what they're putting in there. They said probably a couple buildings and some other little things.
Yes.
So that should be pretty cool. We've got War Colors.
Yes.
And it's actually it's a discount coupon for anything War Colors has.
Yeah.
So that's pretty rad.
And then we got a bunch of stuff coming from some guy named Austin. He runs this company called Death Ray Designs. Fuck that guy. But he said he would help out. I was like, okay, I guess I'll peddle your wares. I'll do what I can to help you.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't peddled them before or anything. Actually, did you see he got his new lasers up and running now?
Yes, I did. But on a more serious note, no, Austin is really hooking us up for GigaCon. It's actually pretty ridiculous the amount of stuff that he's giving. Let's just say that he's going to be providing enough to pretty much furnish just about every damn table we're going to have there, on top of a lot of stuff for bag stuffers, and he's going to be cutting the trophies. I've got custom trophies that are being made for this event.
Awesome. Then we have Mats by Mars.
Yes. Good old Mario Martino. So he will be donating a mat, and there's a couple other things that I know he's thrown in there. He's trying to give away some swag bag stuff, and he's going to have some gift certificates as well for the winners. Just because of the fact that I know, like, the mat companies, for anybody who's listening, anybody who's worked with them before, you will know that shipping them is a pain in the ass. I've got 5 mats from Mario. They're fantastic mats. Love them to death. But I looked up like the logistics of shipping those damn things. Because they're such an oblong tube, they charge you premium on that shit. So like getting multiple mats shipped for price support can really be costly for a company, especially if like you're paying next to nothing. So, also be mindful of that. If you're asking for price support, be grateful with what you get. And Mario's hooking us up pretty well. So, definitely a big shout out to him as well. Nick, who else we got on that list? I'm sorry, man. Like, my brain is still rattled from signing papers all day.
Yeah, I just realized I was drawing a blank. Let me pull it up real quick. Almost there. I was like, oh, wait, as he's going on. Games and Gears. Yes.
So I talked with the owner, Sam, a couple days ago, and he will be donating quite a bit of stuff after Gen Con. He's got some new stuff that's launching. He hasn't really told me what it is yet, but knowing Sam, he's a very generous guy, and I could see him sending off some pretty cool stuff. You guys have ever checked out Games and Gears? They have fantastic brushes. They've got the Ichiban paintbrush set, which is fantastic. They've got the WGC Hydra set, which is a set that I pretty much use religiously, and I swear by them quite a bit. The brushes were pretty much, tried and true and tested by a lot of the upper painting echelon, if you want to call them that, of the WGC. So, definitely a big shout out to them as well. Let's see here. Who else we got? We've got Terrainaholic.
Hold on a second. I do want to hit one thing. Along with Custom Meeple, one of the things they have offered, and I need to work it out a little bit more, only because of how they want it to work. But along with the prizes that they're going to ship us and all that, they are offering free shipping for participants. The one catch is they want to do it all in one big order. So if anyone wants to do it, what'll happen is basically either we need to collect your money, or what I want to go back to talk to them about, and I need to make a note of it, is if we can get a code that just says, hey, it's for GigaCon, and so you guys can get the free shipping and it pays for your stuff, and they just set it aside. And they'll ship it all to us, so the day of the event, or the night before or whatever, when people show up, we can just, here's your order.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So I will email them probably after we get done recording this to go, hey, can we do something like this? Just so that we can get that.
Cool. All right, yeah, because I wasn't too sure on the details of that. I know you talked to those guys quite a bit more than I did. But as far as also, we have a terrain donation coming in. Bill and Sue from Terrainaholic are actually donating us quite a bit of trees for the tables. So Austin over at Death Ray Designs is going to be cutting us like oblong shapes that we're going to be turning into forest templates and things like that. Bill and Sue are actually providing the trees, and they're sending something ridiculous like 200 individual trees. So we will have forests for the tables. We will have more trees than we know what to do with. However, again, big shout out to Bill and Sue. They've always taken care of me. Great people. Just genuinely all around nice. And they love everything wargaming and the wargaming community so much that, I can't praise those two enough.
Then we have Broken Egg Games.
Yes. So we are still talking about what exactly they will be giving out. They were just up at Lock and Load, and I was talking with them a little bit here and there. However, because of them being at Lock and Load, and they just had a big announcement at Lock and Load, they're actually doing the custom tokens now for Mark III. They have way more information on their Facebook page and the website for Broken Egg Games. You can actually see it there, but they are going to be donating some stuff. We just have to hammer out the details. So I don't want to talk about too much. I don't want to say it's more than likely going to be this or more than likely going to be that, because I don't know yet. And let's see here. Who else do we got? That is really, I think right now, that is what we've got for confirmed people donating. So what is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 different sponsors we've already got for this event.
Yep.
And there's quite a few more on this list that we're just waiting on a little bit of a response. But again, we're reaching out. What it really comes down to, whenever you're running events like this, you want it to be a spectacle. You want people to look at this and say, wow, this is cool. I don't see this every day. So reaching out to a lot of these guys, and, you got to look at it from a I scratch, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing, where, okay, cool. So, Broken Egg Games is going to send us some stuff. Also with that, send us some business cards, guys. We will whore your stuff out at the tables. We will make sure that the store owner, since this is being held at Gigabytes, or, if there's store owners that are helping out with stuff at a convention that you're setting up, that these guys have a way to contact you direct so you can do business with them, and keep selling product, which, at that point, everybody wins. So that's a lot of it too, is make sure that, you're compensating these guys in ways that they want. A lot of people are going to be nice and say, hey, you know what, have some stuff, it's on us. Just take some good pictures, send them over to us, post them on our Facebook pages. That's all well and good. Try to go that extra step with them too, because they'll remember that, especially if you need help, getting bigger. Because anytime that you start adding onto the stuff, it gets costly. Anybody that owns multiple armies for different games knows what can happen when you start accruing a lot of shit. And it's no different for a convention.
Yep.
Cool, man. So I think that pretty much covers everything GigaCon related. Yeah, I mean, we're still hammering out the details a little bit. We're still working on the tournament packet a little bit. Let me jump over to the Facebook page here real quick. And again, I apologize for rambling as I'm doing this shit. However, we're real professional tonight.
More so than normal. I think. Usually we leave it up to the guests.
Yeah, we leave it up to the guests. Really, we're just really fucking lazy. We just let the guests do all the talking, and I ask some random ass questions. It sounds like I know what I'm doing. I really don't. No, but okay, so you just give everybody a heads up. The Kings of War event that we're going to be holding down here in Atlanta is a 2,000 point event. It is a $30 entry. It is a Masters qualifier for the Masters for Kings of War. I will actually post the Facebook events page for this in the notes for anybody who's interested in coming down. And if you have any questions, you can post them right on that page. I'll be answering on there, either as myself, Tim Korkleski, or sometimes I'll answer as the actual Gigabytes pages themselves. They gave me admin on this one in order to kind of help out. But we've actually got quite a few people that are helping out and assisting having this come to life. So don't think that this is a Nick and I solo project. There's a lot of people involved in this. And so we really have to, make sure that the team that's involved, via Brian Tucker and Seth Cook and Robert Brandon, the one that actually originated the event, that they're following up, they're doing everything, and that they're also getting, the recognition that they need for, working as hard as they are. So, every once in a while, I got to crack a whip. That's all right. I don't mind.
Actually, he seems to derive some sort of enjoyment out of it.
Well, I do play corn.
Blood for the blood god.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. All that good shit. So what else we got on the agenda for tonight, Nick? I think we pretty much covered everything we can in a weird, like, half hazy, sleepy stupor as to what it takes to run a convention. We talked a little bit about what we've got as far as projects coming up in the future.
So what about the podcast specifically?
Yes, that good shit that we were going to talk about. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be expanding on the podcast a little bit. So Skirmish Supremacy is not going away. It's not going to be, getting thrown into the background or anything of that nature. But we've decided that we wanted to start adding more content onto the channel for you folks, the listeners. So one of the things that we really decided to start doing is Nick is going to have like a little, I say little, I don't mean it like it's a cutesy little thing, but it's a shorter podcast. We're looking at doing some shorter, like Skirmish Supremacy extras. So Nick is going to be having Liz Hunt join him to do what's his segment called Miniature Misfits. So it's still going to be found on the Skirmish Supremacy podcast page, but kind of like we've been doing, Skirmish Supremacy episode 1, 2, 3, yada, yada. You will see pop on there Miniature Misfits episode 1, Miniature Misfits episode 2, and he'll be posting those regularly. And I will also have a small, side podcast as well. I guess a lot of it's just going to be me kind of solo rambling and probably doing some weird shit on Google Plus and whatnot. But it's going to be called Reflections in Steel, just because the name sounded cool. So because it's really just me bantering and making it sound like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I really don't. Don't ever let that fool you. So we're going to be having a lot of those extra segments on there. And on top of that, Nick and I have been kicking around the idea of doing live hangouts. So either using the, what the hell is it called on Facebook, Periscope? I might be wrong on that. I suck at social media half the time. But the Facebook live streaming events, or Google Hangouts live on air, or things of that nature. So that way guests can come on and talk with us. They can ask questions as via the chat bars and we can answer things, or they could just come on to the podcast and just talk, as long as they're okay with that being recorded and put out there later. If they don't want to be involved having people hear their voices, or if we decide to start doing live video for YouTube, we want to make sure everybody's comfortable in this kind of stuff. We don't ever want to alienate anybody. So that's some of the stuff that we're working on doing in the future. We have yet to hammer out details, other than the fact that he's going to have Miniature Misfits and I'm going to have Reflections in Steel. Anything to add to that, Nick?
It's actually Wargaming Misfits, but
whatever. Wargaming Misfits. Whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Actually, it was pretty hilarious watching trying to come up with Reflections in Steel.
Oh God.
Tim agonized over it, and I think he still agonizes over it. He went for days. What do you think about this name? I'm like, but what if we tweaked it this way? And he's like, no, I don't like any of it. And then he'd come back a little while later. What do you think about this name? I don't think it works quite right.
I sounded like some uppity book editor that was trying to come out with the title of the next New York Times bestseller. Or a fucking podcast name where I'm going to sit around rambling like an asshole for half an hour.
It was hilarious. Whereas I've used the Misfits title for everything, so
Nice. Yeah, so we do have quite a bit of stuff coming up. A lot of that we are still hammering out the details, so don't expect any major changes or anything like that anytime soon. And again, when I say changes, we're not doing it to like reformat the podcast. We're just giving you more content.
Well, I mean, we both talked about it in depth because, there was things that we want to do, and we like the direction that we've gone with Skirmish Supremacy and how we bring our guests on, and we talk about all the awesome things that they're doing and that we're doing. And then we decided that, there's still more stuff. There's still some of the news stuff. There's still some of the just really kind of talking about something going on in the hobby. Just different things like that. So it's getting in there and digging and just doing more. Because more is fun.
Yes, very much so. And I mean, like I've said from the beginning, and I've said this numerous times, like this podcast is not for Nick and myself. This is for you guys, the listeners. We do this for you. So if there's something you guys want to see, one of the other things we talked about too, again, going with this interactive stuff, we're going to start asking you folks questions. If there's stuff that you want to see that's coming up or anything that you have for ideas for us, we take all that into consideration, even if like it's just insulting us and saying, hey, how about you both stop looking like a couple of man titties or something. I don't know. My insults are bad right now because, again, my head is just not all 100% here. But, again, we're willing to listen to feedback. We can't get better if you don't tell us what we need to do in order to reach that point. So, taking that time, and if we ask, hey, what do you guys think? We love to hear from you guys. It doesn't matter if it's on Twitter, if it's on Instagram, if it's on the Facebook page. If you manage to stalk us down on Facebook and contact us as individuals, you have our emails. We have all that stuff that's always listed at the end of the episode. We're easy to get a hold of, and we definitely want to hear from you folks.
All I heard there is we're easy.
We are. We are very, very easy.
Terribly. Buy me a beer and I'm yours.
Hell, sometimes I don't even need a beer. Just a ham sandwich would be fine. I'll even make it. How's that sound? I'll make my own sandwich. And still put out. But anyway. We're getting letters.
I don't know. See, every time you say that, the people who are writing them are like, well, fuck this. He already knows it's coming.
Son of a bitch. That's right.
The last time you said that, all we got was a bunch of furry memes.
Yeah, you sons of bitches. Alrighty, so Nick, is there anything else you want to add in there as far as the new content coming out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we kind of hit everything that we were gonna do. It's still gonna be a couple weeks. Liz is actually in the process of moving, so she's got to finish moving. This jackass has to finish moving, and by this jackass I mean Tim, not me. I've got to finish writing a book. So,
yeah, Nick's actually doing important shit.
I don't know if I'd call it important shit, but it does have to get done. And my poor editor, she's really getting worried. She told me, I have complete faith in you, but my boss is getting awful worried. She told me that the other day. I'm like, don't worry, here you go, here's more stuff.
That's a double-edged sword right there. I have complete faith in you, but my boss is getting worried.
But my boss says that I shouldn't believe in you. I didn't feel like breaking
cop, bad cop. That's like apathetic cop and nihilist cop.
I didn't feel like breaking her heart and going, your boss may be right.
Wah, wah, wah. Oh shit. So what else we got?
So I feel like right now the whole stuff that we were talking about before, we left really vague. Are we leaving it still vague, with the LVO and and different things like that.
Vague as far as how.
We
Keep
never
in mind, my
said
brain
what
is
we
still
were
pretty adult
thinking.
from living today. Yeah, I'm gonna leave
So-
it. So I'm gonna leave that under wraps for now because I'm still working out the details.
Okay.
Let's just say that we're working out a way to where you may or may not come to an event in the future to where it's sponsored by Skirmish Supremacy and you get to meet Nick and I in person.
There we go. All right. And there's games
okay,
played.
fine, fuck it. Let's go ahead and talk about it. One of the things that I was talking about, I know my brain's all over the place. My goddamn podcast, my show. I'm going to do what I want. One of the things I kind of talked about back when I started Skirmish Supremacy before the podcast, back when I was, I don't want to say that I'm not involved at WGC, but back when I was a little bit more active at the time, and it's not that I'm not. It's just moving and shit is, a lot of shit's happened. But the point of it is that I really wanted to push wargaming in a direction that's a little bit more kind of like Major League Gaming. If video games are represented in more of a quote unquote professional light, why can't wargaming? So the idea behind the Skirmish Supremacy GT was that I was going to hold two during the year, one in like either early spring and one like summer. So it's either going to be spring or fall, and something in the summer. So they would be kind of like 6 months apart. Having two events throughout the year, so that way people can come to either one. Because again, I don't want to make just that one where it's like if you miss that one, that you're screwed and you can't ever come to a Skirmish Supremacy event. But really, it's going to be much more of an interactive tournament. I know that using Twitch TV and things of that and recording live events is not exactly original, but there's a couple spins that I'm going to take on it just from kind of commentary and things like that I've seen from either competing at Evo or competing in kickboxing and MMA, to where it's like having the color commentators and things like that during the game in order to make watching two people push little miniatures around on a table a little bit more exciting than just, oh, he shouldn't have moved that dude 3 inches. Should have moved him like 2 3/4. Doing something a little bit more exciting, showing beautiful tables, showing beautiful painted miniatures, and really making like the competitive side of the game a spectacle without turning in a bunch of win at all cost dick bags. Because I know that's something that a lot of wargamers are worried about, and I definitely don't want to support that. There, it's out in the open now.
It is out there. It is all out there.
But again, that's still something in the future. It's something that I just kind of wrapped Nick up into this week on top of the other shit I've got going on. So yeah, it's something that we will be discussing a little bit more. And so even something like this, folks listening, if you have any ideas of what you would like to see at an event like that, or ideas that you would like to see make, I guess, wargaming a bit bigger of a spectacle, let us know. Because if it's something to where we can work it out and start doing it in any of the Skirmish Supremacy GTs, we'll definitely try it. We can't promise it'll work. We can't promise that it'll be available. It might be that, hey, this is just way too goddamn expensive. That's fine. But at least that way we did the research. And we have answers to, if we can't do it this year, maybe a year from now or 2 years from now.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. It's really not, even to the point where, he was like, we should do this. And I went, where are we holding it? And he said, fuck.
I did. That was actually my next response was, fuck. No, right now we are talking the Atlanta area. The big reason why is because Atlanta has got such a massive hub for gaming, and Atlanta is such a big, rich, diverse city. And for some reason, we as wargamers, and I say wargamers as a whole because we just can't manage to get our shit together and hold an actual multi-game GT in the immediate surrounding Atlanta area. And there's really nothing like that in the Southeast outside of the ATC in Chattanooga. That's fine and dandy and all, but that's kind of, without people going crazy, that's alienating like Florida and anybody else that's got to go more than like that 5-6 hour drive. And a lot of people, especially if they're driving, that's kind of like the max they want to stick to. So I figured doing something in Atlanta to where there's a couple different things. One, the airport's a great hub. So getting tickets into Atlanta is not hard, and it's usually not expensive. Two, there's so much to do in the city. I know you've heard me say so many times before how I can't stand Atlanta. Really, it's the traffic, and I'll swear by that till the day I fucking die or until I create my own private road to drive on. But there's a lot to do in the Atlanta and the surrounding areas. So having that as an option for people for more stuff to do outside of pushing small soldiers around a table, that's why we're shooting for it. And it's been talked about quite a bit in a lot of the different communities in the area. Why isn't there a major down here? Because nobody's bothered to try.
Boom.
Mic drop. Well, not really, because I still need this mic.
All I can see is that meme. Fuck this shit, where he's throwing those papers in the air. Wait. No, I really need those for tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to finish my daily reports. All right, Nick, I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. Again, I am exhausted, folks. If I sounded like I was just a rambling old codger just strung out on meth and jelly beans, I apologize. I swear to God I will be better this next week.
I don't know. That sounded highly descriptive and pointed and accurate.
Thanks for that. On that note, we're signing out. Folks, it was great talking. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.